Welcome to Spybrary, by spy fans, for spy fans, with Shane Whaley. Shane dives into the mystery and intrigue of spy books and movies, both fact and fiction, delivering reviews and interviews with authors, historians, intelligence experts, and spy fans. He discusses everything from John le Carré, Len Dayton, Ian Fleming, Tom Clancy, Brad Thor, and many more. If you love spy books and movies, keep listening. This podcast is for you. This is Spybrary.
It's a brush pass, quick and simple.
You are listening to Brush Pass on Spybrary. Quick reviews sent in by spy fans for spy fans.
Hi, Carl from Norway here with a dispatch from the North Flank while having gone to ground due to a certain virus. I've been thinking for a while that I should make a brush pass for Spybrary on the writings of Anthony Price, who sadly passed away in 2019. He came to spy writing from journalists, like many of the greats, and was a well-known critic of spy and crime fiction, and ended his career as an editor of the Oxford Times. He had a lifelong interest in history. Price wrote 20 novels set in the same universe, 19 of them featuring Dr. David Audley and Colonel Jack Butler. The pair of them, both Watsons to the others Holmes, worked for the usual unnamed British intelligence outfit, in some way connected to the Ministry of Defence. The book series chronicles the doings of Audley and Butler from the Second World War to the end of the Cold War. Price published his books with alarming regularity from his debut with the Labyrinth Makers in 1970 to The Memory Trap in 1989. The end of the Soviet Union meant the end of the book series. The enemy was no more. Not a surprising ending for a series so much rooted in a fairly conventional Cold War worldview, where the threat from the Soviets, or the Russians, or KGB was aggressive and omnipresent, an enemy willing to use whatever means necessary to achieve their goal. Dr. Audley is a historian, a rugby player, and served as a tank commander during the Second World War. He's middle upper class, he's heavily built, he's bespectacled, he's shy, he's proud, and he's fiercely intelligent. And he's happily married. Rather unusual for an intelligence operative, he meets his future wife in the first book of the series. The novels of the series are published mostly chronologically, interspersed with a few books going back to the Second World War and the Greek Civil War. The books usually contain at least two seemingly unconnected mysteries. One of them concerning the machinations of the KGB, and the other rooted in some historical event, where what really happened is at best unclear. These historical mysteries or events might be as diverse as the myths of King Arthur, prisoners of war from naval battles of the Napoleonic Wars, a siege during the English Civil War, or a skirmish during the American Civil War. In Colonel Butler's Wolf, British Roman history and Hadrian's Wall provide both background and backdrop for the current events. For the reader interested in history, and especially military history, these books are a truly satisfying read. The books are all written from a third-person point of view, but the main characters change it from book to book. As the series goes along, the readers get several personalized views of Audley, Butler, and the other main protagonists, and not all of them favorable. Price is also a master of confusing dialogue. Characters masking their motives, saying one thing, hinting at another, all while deflecting the attention from what really matters. If the reader is on his or her toes, he or she might have a chance to get a grip what's really going on, but I wouldn't bet on it. Anyway, it will also be explained later. In the dialogue, you will also find a sort of dry academic wit. With very sparse means, like the sound of a motorcycle in the distance, Price is capable of creating a very high level of tension in his books. There's always an underlying threat of violence present in the books, and people lose their lives. Neither professionals nor civilians are spared, and Price sometimes seems uncannily indifferent to the fate of his protagonists, even his main characters. While the tension is high, the action is at a low level. Most of what you may call conventional action, like fights or shootouts, and very often even the climax of the novels, take place off stage. So, if you're looking for graphic violence, you won't find it in this series. It's rather unbloody, so to speak. The high tension and the threat of violence reminds the reader that the stakes are high and the outcome might not only influence the lives of the protagonists, but the fate of nations as well. Price uses all the usual spy literature tropes, like the hidden scent, getting involved in the goings-on beyond his comprehension, the tradecraft, the double agent, the chase, and the hunt. Most of all, it's his mastery of wheels within wheels that's the driving force of his books. For a critical reader, there will always be weaknesses in a book series. In the case of Price, deep reading will expose that his books are variations of 4, maybe 6 main plot structures, but it's done in quite a subtle way, so a first-time reader he will hardly notice, and will probably have no objections if he does, as the books are too entertaining. I don't know if Price's books were a success stateside. I don't know if they were a success anywhere outside Britain. Before Spybury, I'd only come across 3 people who had read his works. In Norway, the backlog has been incredibly hard to get hold of. I don't know how this might be in the States. So, a serious collector will probably have his work cut out for him. Some of the best books have been reissued as of late, but all the books have been made available at reasonable prices at Kindle. So if you only want to read them, that's where you go. You will find a list and publishing details on the site Spy Guys and Gals, hopefully with a link in the show notes. Some of the books were made into a TV series or a movie, I don't know. Casting, or perhaps rather miscasting, Terence Stamp as Dr. Audley. I've not seen the series in question. If you're not going to read all the books, which one should I recommend? The Labyrinth Makers and Other Paths to Glory were both Crime Writer Association Silver and Gold Dagger winners, respectively. So that's where to start. Personally, I like The Old Vengeful and War Game. The 44 vintage offers an interesting view of Audley and Butler's war experiences and is perhaps the most action-filled book in the series, barring the Hour of the Donkey, another wartime novel. But this novel is not featuring Audley, but it's clearly set in the same universe. What might the books be compared to? Nothing else really. But think of Macquarie, Le Carré, and Dayton mixed with loads of military history. The books are also somewhat realistic in showing intelligence work to be consisting very much of teamwork. The teamwork, the changing points of view, and the callousness towards his characters is something Price shares with Mick Herron, and I sometimes think of Jackson Lamb as a sort of inverted Dr. Audley. So, any Spybrarian ought to read at least 1 or 2 of Price's books. They might not be for everybody, but I think any history buff will enjoy them. Signing off, Carl from Norway. Report ends.
Can you pull off a brush pass? Send in your review to shane@spybrary.com.
Thanks for listening to the Spybrary podcast. You don't have to wait for the next episode. Join the conversation happening now at facebook.com/Spybrary and on Twitter @Spybrary.